So apologies for the clickbaity title and thumbnail, but they are actual legitimate questions I asked myself when I was filming some footage for upcoming pickups video. It's not going to be out for a little while, but I like to record things as I get them in so I can test them, and if they don't work, get that resolved before the pickups video comes out. For a while, I've been looking for a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I've already got 1, 2, and Sonic and Knuckles, so I figured I wanted 3 as well. And when I got Sonic 2, I decided that I wanted to start collecting them in box. I don't have Sonic 1 or Knuckles boxed. I'm looking for the boxes themselves in the manual. It's just something that I want to do for my own collection. But Sonic the Hedgehog 3 goes for a decent amount. It's not necessarily expensive, but it's also not cheap, in my opinion, more than I want to pay for it. And I didn't really care if I got the clamshell version, the cardboard box version, or even the Mega Hit Series cardboard box version. This part right here doesn't really matter to me that much. So, but I was able to find one for a really good deal. So I picked it up on eBay, and as I was putting everything back together after filming, I noticed this really funny looking black sticker on the back, which is kind of unusual. On top of that, if you see, these are not your game bit screws. These are security Torx. And that was kind of strange to me too. Although not too strange because various different Sega carts did have different types of screws. EA used some kind of weird reverse tri-point screw. Almost looked like a spanner screw, but instead of having 2 notches, it had 3. And I think Acclaim Games and a few others did use Torx and security Torx. And I mentioned Acclaim because when I peel the sticker back, I don't know if it's easily visible, but that's an Acclaim shell. Now, this is supposed to be a Sega game. Why is it in an Acclaim shell? I first opened it up, and I'll open it up here so you can see what I found inside, because it was kind of surprising. Inside is what looks to be a legitimate PCB at the very least. If this is a fake, they recreated it very well, but I'm pretty sure it's real because A, it's got the Sega silkscreen on there with the copper and everything. But one thing that threw me off was the ROM itself says Majesco sales. Now, for those of you who are unaware, Sega did use Majesco to release a lot of cartridges and accessories and things like that, kind of offload manufacturing costs. And apparently, a lot of the Mega Hit series were actually manufactured and distributed by Majesco. Majesco also released the Genesis 3 and re-released the Game Gear later on in the 90s, as Sega had already started to move on from the Genesis and on to the Saturn. So, at the very least, this is a legitimate Sega / Majesco board. But is this Sonic 3? So I put it into the my Genesis, and yes, it was actually Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So at the very least, I was concerned that the seller had basically just reshelled it because the original one had gotten damaged. Maybe just the back half and the front half could be legit. Hard to say. So I was going to go onto eBay and kind of say something to the seller like, hey, what's going on here? But before I decided to do that, I figured let me do a little bit of research first, because I didn't want to start, blaming someone in the event that maybe they didn't know, or maybe this actually is a legitimate cartridge. And I'll post some links below in the description, but it turns out that yes, this is actually a legitimate cartridge. Turns out that when Majesco started releasing some of these Mega Hit series and even some non-Mega Hit series games later in the Genesis life and even after, they just reused a bunch of leftover Acclaim shells that I guess they found that Sega had and Acclaim had, and they had no use for. So they figured, well, we'll just reuse these. Why should we, have to go and manufacture our own cartridges and everything? So instead, what they did is they put a sticker on the back to hide the Acclaim part, which I'm sure in the 90s, this was perfectly flush and you couldn't really tell. Although if it were me, I would have done a plastic sticker over it. But again, they were trying to save on costs. So this is, in fact, a legitimate copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and I do have some other cartridges for comparison. So first we'll look at a copy of Sonic 2. It's a not-for-resale one because it's a pack-in title, and as you can see, it does have a Sega logo on the back and a 4.5mm game bit, whereas here is the Acclaim cart. So also the warnings and stuff are a little bit different on there than they are in the Acclaim cart. So there's that. I also have an acclaimed game, WWF Raw, and as you can see, other than the sticker, it is identical to the Sonic 3 cart. But I also have this Genesis 6-pack, which comes with 6 different games on there. That one is also a Majesco branded cart with a sticker on it that's trying to hide the Acclaim logo and has the security Torx on there. And again, if you can see, the label isn't exactly super glossy or anything. Not like on Sonic 2. Kind of hard to see on camera, but it is glossier. If you look at the WWF Raw, it's definitely glossy. So, yeah, so if I wanted to make this video just so that you guys are aware, some collectors are super annoyed with these types of cartridges. They don't see them as pure or original, even though they are original and fully sanctioned by Sega. Me personally, I don't care. Again, the main reason I buy these games is to play them. Sure, they look nice on a shelf. They're, fun to show off and everything. But, the whole point of retro collecting for me is to be able to play these games and relive these moments from my childhood and gain some new ones. So if you run across cartridges that are like this, chances are they are legit. I mean, use your gut. If you don't think it's right, then just don't buy it and, move on. You can always, bring a security Torx driver with you, GameBit driver, and always verify the PCB inside. So hope this was informative for you guys. This is not an all-encompassing way to detect fake cartridges versus real. This could very well be a really good repro, but I'm pretty sure it's not. So if you guys have any questions, suggestions, tips, did you run across something like this as well, leave a comment below. Otherwise, thanks all. I'll catch you later.